I'm just holding it down, you know what I'm saying? Holding it down for my hood. As you can see, we in the know 123 Magnolia, of course. Magnolia bound, Soulja Slim to the bone. It don't stop. Who's the realest? Me and my dog Cedar. You understand what I'm saying? No limit. We's the realest. You understand what I'm saying? Where the real at? This where the real at. This is the real Magnolia right here. Yeah, what you see on TV and what you be seeing what them other cats be doing, it ain't Magnolia. I'm Magnolia. I'm sorry, partner.
James Depp Jr. was born on September 9, 1977, in New Orleans' Magnolia Project. He grew up with his mom Linda Depp and attended Cohen Senior High School. As a child, Slim loved to draw and cut hair, but from early on, hip-hop was his calling. He started making his name when he took the microphone during open-air bounce parties in a courtyard of the Magnolia Projects. KLC, a legendary producer from New Orleans, who we briefly spoke about in the previous video, was the DJ at most of those rap sessions. He remembers when friends prodded Slim to give it a try. When he finally got up and did his thing, people could see he was a rare breed. It got to the point where every week we went out there, people were looking for Slim. Shortly after, he adopted the nickname Magnolia Slim and started performing in venues and block parties in the project. While his passion for music was growing, it was only one side of his life. He dropped out of high school in the 11th grade and began selling drugs, eventually forming an addiction to heroin and cocaine. His troubles didn't stop with drugs, and he also participated in multiple robberies and was started to get active in street life. The combination of these two lives Magnolia Slim was living later in life became a blessing and a curse. In 1993, after one of the block parties, KLC decided to take Slim under his wing and help him to start taking music seriously. He was not only impressed by what he heard, but also by what he saw. The crowd's reaction to Slim was over the moon, and one thing for sure, people in Magnolia loved Slim. At the time, KLC had a record label, Parkway Pumpin', and while the label didn't have any contracts, the lineup of artists that they had was impressive, to say the least. It included Mystical, Fiend, Mia X, Mac, Mr. Servan, 39 Posse, and now Magnolia Slim. They recorded a couple of records, and KLC, being a DJ, used to play his records at the club, building even more buzz around his name. A year later, in 1994, Magnolia Slim released a solo debut, Soulja for Life. The album did really well and sold 90,000 units independently. In 1995, he followed that up with a 4-song EP called The Dark Side, and in the same year, his son, Lil Soulja Slim, was born. These releases only solidified his name in the New Orleans music scene. What made people love Slim so much was that he always kept it real, and he lived the life he was rapping about in his records.
What was it about Slim and his personality that resonated so real and so tough with the city though?
He stayed in the streets after success. He stayed with, nothing about where he went changed. You know, he knew his restrictions on, like, I am who I am, but he still made it to a way to where, like, I'm not bigger than what made me. So I'm not gonna run from these motherfucking people and just stay away from them when these are motherfuckers that kept me up when I was coming up.
Yeah.
And at first you'd be like, damn, you know, I just, you know, something like, I want to sit check him out. And he's sitting there telling me something just happened. And then he get on that song and rap about exactly what just happened. His everything about him nothing was fake. But what people don't understand, they always tell me, man, this ultimate thug, and he was this gangster gang. Dude, he was the type of person. He was real as they can be, but he cared. If you had a problem, it became his problem. He might tell you later, like, B, you put me in this position, bro. You know what I'm saying, Ron? But he gonna handle it. He gonna be there. And big as heart. Nicest person, loved his mama. You know, like everybody loved their mama, but I'm saying, you know, that some people think what they call guys like that ultimate thugs, they not capable of loving.
Yeah.
You know, Slim was more or less, Slim didn't just go start nothing, man. Slim finished it. You know, and then once he started, only God and Miss Linda, his mama, could stop him.
At the time, even though his music career was taking off locally, Slim was still more focused on the street life rather than music. One night, he saw a guy on the street and decided to rob him. Little did he know, he was one of the producers for Master P.
But for us, Soulja Slim was that next thing that we could relate to, somebody that's really out there thugging, living that life. People don't know how I met Soulja Slim. I met Soulja Slim, was crazy. So I met, you know, me being a street dude, I met Soulja Slim. He was trying to rob one of my producers, and he didn't know. And so when he see me, I'm like, homie, really? So he see me and my other homie, and he like, man, you better get up out of here with that. You know how it is. He was like, no, big dog, I ain't know that was your people. I'm trying to get my life together. I ain't getting high no more. Woo, woo, woo. I'm trying to do music. So I'm like, man, that man tripping. You know, some real New Orleans street stuff. So I'm like, man, give me your number. When you get your stuff together, I'ma holler at you. You know what I'm saying? He was like, nah, man, I'm telling you. And then everybody started calling me, no, Slim ain't doing nothing crazy no more. But this is how I met him.
Magnolia Slim first appeared on the No Limit compilation album on October 31st, 1995. One of the songs on the album was Slim's You Got It. It wasn't until 1998 that he eventually landed a deal with No Limit and released an album, Give It To Him Raw. Apart from the fact that this was his debut studio album for No Limit, he also changed his name to Soulja Slim. The album debuted at number 13 on the Billboard 200s and sold 82,000 copies in its first week. Soon, No Limit became a second home to Slim. Kelsey brought all of his artists from his label to No Limit, so Slim already saw familiar faces around him. He also became friends with other label mates like Snoop Dogg and C Murder. He and C had a really strong friendship and eventually became more like brothers.
Me and my nigga Soulja Slim, you heard me? We be chilling every day, nigga. This ain't no act. You know, we kick it like this for real. So when we make moves together. We hang together for real, you heard me? We kick it at the house, at the crib. We go from the Calio. We go in the Magnolia. We go anywhere, you know? We bump each other's shit, you know? We for real in this game. This ain't no game. We do our dirt together, you see what I'm saying? That's just how we roll, dog. If you down, you down. You my nigga, you my nigga. If you ain't, you ain't. That's just how it is.
This was major for Slim. His signing with No Limit led his music to be discovered not only locally, but nationwide. Unfortunately, his street life eventually caught up with him, and shortly after his debut release, Slim was found guilty of armed robbery and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. His music career was put on pause. Not only that, but he couldn't tour or do features with other artists, which would have made him a lot of money and spread his name even more. Typically, 3-year sentence for a rapper who is coming up would be an instant career death. But not for Slim. As I mentioned, people loved him and kept his name buzzing while he was serving time.
One of my fondest memories of Slim was that he one of the most prepared, regardless how much he was in the streets, he one of the most, if not the most prepared artists at No Limit or I ever worked with.
Him and C.
Him and C. But let me tell you, we got Slim after he came out of prison, he had did a bid. You know what I'm saying? And when he came out, you know, you ain't got nothing but time when you're locked up. Man, this dude came out with tablets like this here of songs, bro.
My God.
Already ready. Just give him a beat.
Whatever
he can't
beat
put on a
was played, he had something for
beat.
it.
He had something for it.
He was released in 2001, and in July of the same year, he dropped his follow-up album, The Streets Made Me. Unfortunately, the album wasn't as successful as his previous one. He started to feel like being used by Master P. Let's not forget, this was the time of No Limit's downfall. A lot of artists left the label, including KLC and the whole Beats by the Pound crew. Due to this and money reasons, Soulja Slim parted ways with No Limit. Don't be mistaken that he left it at that, because shortly thereafter, Soulja Slim released a few diss tracks aimed at Master P, including You Gonna Feel Me.
P wasn't up in no mail, so far Jack the clown. I went on about my business, that's why we don't f around.
He didn't like the fact that he wasn't the boss, so after he left, he started his own label, naming it Cutthroat Committee. Slim signed a couple of artists from New Orleans and wanted to make it major. He released an album in 2002 called Years Later. The album did great, and this caught the attention of Koch Records. Koch Records was go-to place for artists who had just gotten out of a record label and wanted to release an album independently. Artists like RZA, KRS-One, and even Ringo Starr from the Beatles at some point released independent albums to Koch Records. Apart from these stars, Slim's childhood friend and also one of the legends from New Orleans, Bee Gees, released an album Life After Cash Money to the same label. Bee Gees saw that Slim could use help at the beginning of his solo career and set up a meeting with them. Koch Records offered Slim a distribution deal for one album, plus $300,000. This is where Slim's genius and years of street knowledge came into play. He in a way finessed the label by re-releasing the same album but changing its title to Years Later a few months after, plus adding a couple of extra tracks. He made money from the first album, re-released the same album to the label as a part of distribution deal, which made him money, and on top of that, he got extra $300,000 in cash as a marketing budget. Around the same time, he also recorded a song with Juvenile called Slow Motion, started appearing in magazines, frequently visiting LA, and started to attract more and more mainstream attention. At the time, he was dating Macy Gray, and during one of his visits to LA, he met G-Unit. Once again, it was such a great opportunity for Slim to push his career even more. 50 really liked Slim, and they were about to sign Soulja as their new artist, but unfortunately, when everything seemed like it was going in the right direction, and all of his dreams started to become a reality, his time was sadly cut short. On November 26, 2003, Soulja Slim was gunned down after an assailant shot him 4 times, 3 times in the face and once in the chest. What makes this even more heartbreaking is that he died on the front lawn of the home of his mother, a house he bought for her earlier the same year. People loved Slim, and his passing touched a lot of lives in the New Orleans. He was buried with his Cutthroat Committee charm and jewelry, and the outfit he wore on the cover of Give It To Him Raw. Soulja Slim's funeral attended hundreds of people who came to pay their respects and say goodbye to beloved and influential figure. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to see his song with Juvenile, Slow Motion, reach #1 on US Billboard Hot 100, which became his biggest song to date. More than a month later, on December 31st, 2003, police arrested 22-year-old Jarrell Smith in connection with Slim's murder. They discovered a stolen police pistol in Smith's possession with a scratched-off serial number. The bullets from the gun matched the ones that were shot that day, but no witnesses could testify against him. By 2008, Smith had been arrested for 3 more murders, and in each case, the charges were dropped due to lack of witnesses. Smith himself was found shot to death on August 13, 2011. Slim's murder eventually became a cold case. While there are several different stories and speculations of what happened and who killed Slim, unfortunately, James Tapp Jr., just before reaching his dreams, lost a life that day. He was only 26 years old. During his short life, he still managed to leave a big mark and impact not only in New Orleans, but all over the states. I keep mentioning that Slim was loved in New Orleans, and especially by Magnolia residents, because you can't speak about the 90s and not hear about Soulja Slim. He is often referred as the Tupac of New Orleans. Almost 20 years later after his death, people still celebrate and remember the one and only Soulja Slim. Many rappers paid homage to Slim in their music over the years, like Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, Kendrick Lamar, Boosie, Playboi Carti, and more. His influence and legacy continue to be felt throughout the hip-hop community and beyond. James Tapp Jr. lived a short but impactful life. His connections and reputation in the streets made him the man that we now remember as Soulja Slim. Despite the circumstances of his passing, Soulja Slim's music and legacy lived on, inspiring countless artists and influencing the direction of hip-hop for years to come. He was a real soldier, and his legacy will live on. Rest in peace, Soulja Slim.